Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into part 8, the grand finale, of a really fantastic tutorial called IPv6 Troubleshooting for System Administrators and Technical Support. This whole series was put together by Virtualization Options LLC, which is a great technology advisory group based out of Colorado. Now, if you've been following along, this final chapter is exactly where we synthesize everything we've learned to help you support your organization's migration from IPv4 to IPv6. We're going to rapidly rewire your IPv4 muscle memory, so let's jump right in.
Here's our roadmap for today. To really set up Chapter 8's final takeaways, we're going to do a rapid-fire recap of the foundational concepts: unlearning IPv4 habits, checking address configs, MTU issues, transition tunnels, and stopping rogue RAs. Then, we'll hit Chapter 8's core topic, the golden rules of IPv6.
All right, Section 1, Unlearning IPv4 Muscle Memory.
It's really fascinating to contrast these two protocols. IPv6 is definitely not just a larger address space bolted onto IPv4. It's a fundamentally different beast. For starters, multicast entirely replaces broadcast. That means those old broadcast pings we relied on totally meaningless now. Furthermore, with NAT largely absent, our entire approach to firewall and security design has to shift, simply because every device is now potentially globally routable.
Honestly, this right here is one of the biggest mental hurdles for us admins. In the IPv4 world, a single address on an interface is simple, right? But in IPv6, having multiple active addresses on one interface, like a link local, a global unicast, and maybe some temporary privacy addresses all coexisting simultaneously is completely normal. It's kind of wild at first, but we really have to train ourselves not to troubleshoot this as an error.
Because the protocol has changed so much, the tutorial highlights how our daily tool belt has to shift too. You're going to be relying heavily on new commands for Linux and Mac OS. You'll use IP-6 route to check your routing tables, IP-6 nay to look at your neighbor caches instead of ARP, and tools like RDisk6 to actively force router advertisements. Retire that old toolkit.
Moving on to Section 2, Address Configuration and Failures.
Okay, so before a host can even use an IPv6 address, it has to rely on duplicate address detection, or DAD. The host sends a solicitation out, and if another host responds, bam, conflict detected. If a device on your network just outright refuses to connect, it might be failing this exact process. You'll want to fire up that IP-6 address command and look closely for the DAD failed or tentative flag on the interface.
So what about finding the way out of the local network? That's where router advertisements, or RAs, come into play. RAs actually carry the default gateway. It's super important to note that unlike your classic IPv4 DHCP leases, there is absolutely no explicit renewal process. If RAs get blocked by a firewall, hosts silently lose their default route. Poof. Also, a router can intentionally send an RA with a lifetime of 0, which signals clients to instantly stop using it as a gateway.
We also have Neighbor Discovery Protocol, or NDP, which completely replaces ARP. When you check your neighbor cache now, you won't just see MAC addresses. You're going to see specific states like reachable, stale, or probe. Plus, NDP relies heavily on multicast. If your network switches don't have MLD snooping enabled, that's multicast listener discovery, that multicast traffic will just flood out of every single port, seriously dragging down your network performance.
That brings us to Section 3, PMTU and ICMPv6 issues.
Have you ever run into a situation where a tiny little ping works absolutely perfectly, but an SSH session or a massive file copy just stalls out right after the TCP handshake? If so, you have almost certainly identified a failure in path MTU discovery. Basically, the network is trying to send large packets, a router somewhere in the middle can't handle the size, and the notification trying to get back to the sender is being silently dropped.
And why exactly does that notification get dropped? Well, usually it's because of overly strict firewalls. Listen, there is a whole new golden rule list for firewalls now. You absolutely must permit these specific ICMPv6 types. Specifically, Type 2 for packet too big. That is literally what makes path MTU discovery work. If you blindly block all ICMP traffic like we used to do in IPv4, your network will simply break. No way around it.
Now, while we definitely must allow those ICMPv6 types, we still have to consider security. You should configure your firewalls to drop atomic fragments, which are a well-known security risk. Also, beware of the middle box problem.
A lot of older firewalls or load balancers silently drop IPv6 packets if they contain unknown extension headers. Always inspect your packet captures for these headers when troubleshooting mysterious connectivity drops. Let's move to Section 4, Tunnels, VPNs, and NAT64. Even in a pristine IPv6-only environment, your clients still need to talk to the legacy IPv4 internet. That's exactly where NAT64 and DNS64 come in. DNS64 basically tricks the client into thinking an IPv4 server actually has an IPv6 address, and NAT64 handles the translation at the gateway. Failures here usually involve exhausted translation pools, or maybe an application hard-coded an IPv4 literal address, which completely bypasses your DNS translation.
VPNs can be exceptionally tricky. Imagine a client is on a dual-stack home network and connects to a corporate VPN that doesn't explicitly handle IPv6. You know what happens? You get a split tunnel leak. The IPv4 traffic goes securely to the corporate office, but the IPv6 traffic bypasses the VPN entirely and goes straight out to the internet, exposing the real IP. To fix this, you must either explicitly tunnel the IPv6 traffic or completely disable IPv6 on the VPN client.
Section 5. Stopping rogue router advertisements. Rogue RAs can wreak total havoc on your local segment. They're often caused by a developer accidentally bridging a virtual machine or a Docker container right onto the corporate network. But here's a pro tip. By filtering for ICMPv6.type equals 134 in Wireshark, you can trace that rogue RA directly back to its MAC address. To fix this at an enterprise level, you've got to enable RA guard on your access switches, properly isolate your VMs, and ensure Docker bridges have IPv6 disabled unless intentionally configured. And that brings us to Section 6, the golden rules of IPv6. After recapping all those previous chapters, this brings us right to the absolute core focus of Chapter 8. Let's anchor everything we've learned with a rapid-fire summary of these immutable laws. First up is the invisible failure concept. Because modern operating systems are dual-stacked, they will happily and silently fall back to IVP4 if IPv6 fails. This means an IPv6 failure can be completely invisible to end users until the day you actually turn IPv4 off. The tutorial heavily stresses that we need to explicitly test connectivity using commands like curl-6 to isolate and actually prove that the IPv6 path is functioning. Second, and honestly this might be the most critical point, never block ICMPv6 entirely. It's not an optional add-on, it is the core signaling protocol of the network. Blocking it breaks fundamental operations like neighbor discovery and path MTU discovery. Just don't do it. Finally, respect the core differences. Remember that NDP replaces ARP. Embrace that a link local address coexisting with a global unicast address is exactly how the system is designed to work. And always document your delegated prefixes from your ISPs, because silent prefix changes will break your static configurations instantly.
I want to leave you with a final thought to investigate on your own networks today. If you went and checked your firewall rules right now, are you inadvertently suffocating your network by blocking the critical ICMPv6 types we discussed today? It might be time to check those configurations. Thank you so much for joining this explainer. Get out there, rewire that muscle memory, and start diagnosing with absolute confidence.